Section 1. The Blueprint That Broke. In the 1950s, being a good man meant something. You didn't have to be flashy. You didn't need a brand. You didn't have to posture online for likes or showcase your lifestyle to prove your worth. You simply showed up. You worked long hours. You paid the bills, protected your family, and tried to do the right thing. And for that, you were respected. Respected by your community. Respected by your partner. Respected by yourself. The culture reinforced your efforts. Society had a shared rhythm. There were rules, not always perfect, not always fair, but they existed. You knew your role, and if you fulfilled it, you were honored for it. You could build a family off a single income. You could trust your boss to look out for your future. You could show up as a man, imperfect, maybe a little rough around the edges, but solid, dependable, enough. That was the world your grandfather knew. And whether you realize it or not, you were born with the echoes of that blueprint. You were told, be responsible, be honest, provide, protect, work hard, and things will fall into place, but no one told you what happened to the place. Because that world, that map, is gone. It's been dismantled, piece by piece, role by role, expectation by expectation. And most men haven't been given a new map, just blame, confusion, contradiction, and the silent pressure to figure it all out alone. Section 2. You were given rules that no longer apply, but somewhere along the way, the rules changed. Quietly, subtly, without warning, and without anyone giving you a new set to follow. The systems you were taught to trust started shifting. The ground beneath your feet moved, and no one gave you a heads up. You were told to work hard, but hard work alone stopped being enough. You were told to be kind, but kindness got you labeled safe or boring. You were told to provide, but now even that role is shared, questioned, or minimized. The values you were raised with? Still noble, still necessary, but no longer sufficient. You weren't told that the job market would become saturated, that degrees would become inflated, that attention would replace trust, that leadership would look more like image management than substance. You weren't told that being a good guy wouldn't be a differentiator, it would be assumed. And worst of all, you weren't told that while the game changed, the expectations didn't. You're still expected to perform, to lead, to provide, to succeed, to initiate, to protect. But the system now treats your efforts like they're disposable. Your reliability is expected, but not respected. Your masculinity is policed until it's needed, and your desire for direction, clarity, and truth, it's met with noise, endless noise. You didn't change, but the arena did, and now you're being told to play a new game, using the rules from an old one. That dissonance, that feeling like you're always almost doing the right thing, but somehow still coming up short? That's not you failing. That's you being underinformed. But here's the key. Once you see that the rules changed, you can stop blaming yourself for not winning a rigged game and start learning how the new one actually works. Section 3. The new arena. Today, you're not just showing up to a workplace. You're stepping into a marketplace. Not just a marketplace of skills, not even a marketplace of effort, but a marketplace of attention, of narrative, of perception. You're no longer judged simply by what you do, but by how it's framed, how it lands, how it plays. You're not just asked to perform, you're asked to perform your performance. The modern arena rewards the man who understands optics, positioning, and leverage, not just the man who puts his head down and grinds. It's no longer about being the strongest. It's about being the most visible. It's not about being the most reliable. It's about being the most talked about. We've entered an age where perception often precedes substance, where charisma can outperform competence, where the man who understands narrative framing can leapfrog the man who built the engine. In this world, your resume is scanned in seconds. Your dating profile is swiped in less. Your voice, your presence, your clarity, all are measured subconsciously in the first 10 seconds. Everything is filtered through speed, spectacle, and social proof. You're not just being evaluated for value, you're being evaluated for vibe. And this isn't limited to careers or dating. It touches everything. Promotions go to the people who appear promotable. Clients sign with those who signal confidence. Women open up to men who feel like direction, not noise. Opportunities go to those who frame themselves as already winning. In this new arena, value must be felt before it's recognized, before it's trusted, before it's chosen. So while you're grinding, building, waiting for the world to reward your consistency, someone else, less experienced, less ethical, maybe even less talented, is outplaying you. Not because he's better, but because he's visible. Because he knows the arena isn't about fairness, it's about framing. And here's the hard truth. If you don't learn how to play this game, you'll keep losing in one that no longer exists. Section 4. Why masculinity is misunderstood. Masculinity today isn't just misunderstood, it's fragmented, split into two extremes, demonized on one end, hollowed out into empty aesthetics on the other. You're either labeled a threat or a thirst trap. You're told to be a man, but also to be more sensitive. You're told to lead, but also to always defer, to protect, but never impose, to act, but only if it doesn't upset the room. Masculinity has become a performance with no script, a test with no answer key, a role that's only noticed when you fail to play it correctly. And beneath that confusion is a quiet war, a war on essence, on center, on clarity. You see it in the men who shrink to keep the peace, in the boys who were never taught to hold tension, in the husbands who lost their spark the moment they got the ring, because no one ever told them the truth. Masculinity isn't loud. It isn't reactive. It isn't domination or detachment. It's presence. It's direction. It's the calm clarity that says, I know where I'm going, and you're free to come with me. Real masculinity doesn't flinch under pressure. It doesn't crumble when misunderstood. It doesn't chase approval or try to please. It leads with quiet conviction. It anchors the room. It speaks softly and is heard deeply. But in a world that rewards performative vulnerability, that turns strength into spectacle, that fears authority but craves leadership, this grounded energy is terrifying. Because it's not something that can be controlled. It can't be swayed by applause or canceled by outrage. It exists beneath the noise, unshakable, unmoved. And that's exactly why it's needed more than ever. You don't need to reclaim some outdated version of manhood. You don't need to grow a beard and yell on a podcast. You just need to remember who you were before the noise, before the guilt, before the confusion, before the world told you to mute your instincts and perform for acceptance. Masculinity is not a costume. It's not a strategy. It's a presence, forged in discipline, stillness, and purpose. And when you embody it, not perform it, everything shifts. People listen when you speak. She softens when she feels your certainty. Opportunities find you because you carry the energy of someone who doesn't need them. The misunderstanding ends when you stop explaining and start embodying. Section 5. Why control is an illusion. Control, it's what most men chase without even realizing it. We think if we can just say the right words, dress the right way, respond to every situation perfectly, we'll finally get the outcome we want. Respect, success, love, admiration. We believe if we just tighten the grip a little more, if we can just engineer the moment, then we can win the game. But here's the truth. Control isn't power. Control is fear with a mask on. It's the anxious boy inside you, trying to avoid rejection, trying to avoid humiliation, trying to guarantee connection without ever risking exposure. Control is a trap, and it makes you predictable. Women sense it. Bosses sense it. People feel it in your cadence, your tone, your breath. Because when you're trying to control, you're not present. You're not powerful. You're performative. The moment you grasp for control, you lose the one thing that matters most, your center. You start living for the outcome, not from the outcome. You start speaking for effect, not from truth. You start moving like a man with a leash around his own neck, and people feel that. A man trying to control everything is a man who doesn't trust anything, not himself, not others, not the process. But here's the paradox. The man who can surrender the need for control is the man who starts to attract it all. He's the one who speaks calmly and is heard, who moves slowly and still arrives first, who doesn't chase but is followed, because he's not grasping, he's grounded. He knows the outcome isn't guaranteed, but he is, and that's magnetic. You don't gain power by controlling more. You gain it by trusting yourself through uncertainty. The storm will come, the tension will rise, the test will arrive. But the man who stops trying to micromanage life and instead learns to hold life with presence becomes untouchable. He's no longer gaming the moment, he's guiding it. And when a woman feels that, when she sees a man who doesn't contort himself for approval, who doesn't beg, persuade, or pressure, she relaxes, she softens, she follows. Not because he forced her, but because he didn't need to. That's not control, that's clarity, and it's 1,000 times more powerful. Section 6. Why most men wait too long to wake up. Most men don't wake up by choice. They wake up through pain, through heartbreak, through betrayal, through some sharp edge of reality that cuts through the illusion they've been living inside. They think the world is still fair, that if they work hard, stay loyal, follow the rules, everything will work out, that their effort will be rewarded, that their intentions will be enough, that their honesty will be met with respect. But then, something happens. She leaves without a warning. The promotion goes to someone else. The job disappears overnight. Or worse, they realize they were never really seen, even by the people they gave everything to. And in that moment, something breaks. The belief system they were raised on, the one passed down by well-meaning parents and a society stuck in the past, collapses. And it hurts. Because they didn't just lose the girl, or the job, or the opportunity. They lost their framework for reality. They realized they've spent years, sometimes decades, playing a game that never had them in mind, following a script that no longer applies, and giving energy to a system that never planned to reward them. That's when the rage kicks in, the bitterness, the desire to burn it all down. But that's not clarity. That's just the grief of waking up too late. What's stronger than rage is awareness. And what's more powerful than bitterness is strategy. Because once you see the rules have changed, you don't have to get angry. You just have to adapt. You don't need to collapse into despair. You just need to shift your frame. Stop waiting for the world to recognize you. Stop assuming loyalty will earn you a crown. Stop expecting systems built for profit to care about your sacrifice. Wake up now, not after it all falls apart. Learn how perception is shaped. Learn how attraction actually works. Learn how to build leverage in a system that rewards power, not purity. Because the men who win today aren't the ones trying to prove their goodness. They're the ones who understand the game early enough to play it well. Let the rest keep sleeping. It's time to move. Section 7. She doesn't want to lead. She wants to feel led. Most men today are completely disoriented when it comes to women. They've been told for decades, treat her like an equal. Let her take the lead. Step back. Don't assert too much. Be emotionally available, but not too stoic. Be strong, but not intimidating. Be gentle, but not weak. And so, they hesitate. They overthink. They dilute themselves into something they hope will be accepted, but that she never actually asked for. Because culture lies. It tells you that what she wants most is control. That she wants full autonomy, full dominance, full authority. In the boardroom, in the relationship, in the bedroom. But the truth is more layered. Yes, she wants her voice respected. Yes, she wants her agency intact. Yes, she wants to move through the world with power. But when it comes to you, to the man in front of her, what she feels in her body isn't the same as what she says with her mouth. Because polarity isn't intellectual, it's energetic. And the real secret? She doesn't want to lead in the dance of attraction. Not when she's with a grounded, clear, self-respecting man. She doesn't want to control you. She wants to feel that she can't. Not because you're aggressive, not because you dominate her, but because your direction is so rooted, so strong, so quietly unshakable, that she can finally relax. Her nervous system stops scanning. Her mind stops racing. She can exhale into the safety of your frame. She's not drawn to a man who chases. She's drawn to a man who moves forward with purpose and lets her choose whether to walk beside him. That's the magnetic pull. That's the containment. That's what turns her walls into softness. That's what unlocks her femininity. She doesn't want your control. She wants your clarity. She doesn't want your obedience. She wants your presence. She doesn't want you to collapse around her emotions. She wants to feel that you can hold both her fire and her chaos without flinching. And ironically, the more you try to please her, the more she doubts you. The more you yield, the less she trusts your center. The more you follow, the more she feels alone. Because deep down, she doesn't want to lead. She wants to feel led, not as an act of dominance, but as a reflection of your depth. Your grounded direction isn't just attractive, It's what makes her feel safe enough to surrender. So stop trying to impress her with your niceness. Start guiding with your stillness. She'll feel it, and she'll follow, because she wants to. Section 8. The performance economy is real, and you're in it. In today's world, your actions alone aren't enough. You can be disciplined. You can work 12-hour days. You can say all the right things, show up on time, and do your job with precision. But none of that guarantees you'll be seen. None of that guarantees you'll be chosen. None of that guarantees you'll get the reward. Why? Because we don't live in a meritocracy anymore. We live in a performance economy, where it's not just what you do, it's how it looks, how it lands, how it's perceived, how it's felt. Your results matter, yes, but your presentation matters more. Your signal. Because in a world of infinite inputs, people don't have time to evaluate your soul. They scan for signals. They follow perception. You might think this is unfair, and maybe it is. But it's the truth. And the men who adapt to it rise. We've shifted from effort to optics, from depth to narrative, from the substance of character to the symbolism of charisma. The world rewards what it can see and feel, not just what it can measure. And here's the harsh part. The man who learned how to shape signal, the man who understands how to broadcast energy, certainty, and direction, will always outpace the man silently grinding in the shadows. Even if the silent man is better, even if he works harder, even if he's more deserving, because attention is the new currency, and you are in competition every single day for people's attention. Your presence is your product. Your tone is your advertisement. Your clarity is your marketing funnel. The game has changed. You're no longer competing on who works harder. You're competing on who feels more real, more powerful, more trustworthy, more magnetic. Even in relationships, women are inundated with men who check boxes, but only a few know how to shape perception. Only a few know how to lead energetically. Only a few know how to frame the moment. And those are the ones who get seen. So what does this mean for you? It means you need to stop hiding behind hard work. Stop assuming being a good guy is enough. Stop thinking results speak for themselves. They don't. You have to speak with your presence, with your posture, with the story you tell, through how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself. You are a walking narrative, and if you don't shape that narrative intentionally, the world will assign one to you. And that's how good men get left behind. Not because they weren't enough, but because they didn't know how to signal who they really are. Section 9. Presence is rarer than talent, and more valuable. There was a time when being talented was enough. If you had skills, people noticed. If you were good at your job, you rose through the ranks. If you showed up and performed, that performance alone set you apart. But not anymore. Today, being good is expected. It's the baseline. It gets you in the room, but it doesn't keep you there. Because now, presence is the true differentiator. We live in a world saturated with competent men, talented men, qualified men, but very few have presence. And presence is not charisma. It's not being loud. It's not being flashy or performative. Presence is the quiet power you carry when you walk into a room. It's the stillness in your gaze, the command in your posture, the subtle authority in your silence. You can't fake it. You can't download it. And you can't talk your way into it. Presence is earned. It's built in the background when no one is watching. In your discipline, in your choices, in your relationship to yourself. Most men today are performers, chasing approval. They try to signal confidence by talking more, doing more, showing more. But the rare man? He does less and means more. He knows that when you really have something to say, you don't have to shout. He knows that his presence is the message, that his energy speaks long before his words ever arrive. Presence is what separates the man she notices from the man she follows. It's what separates the coworker from the leader, the date from the partner, the noise from the signal. And that's what separates the men who move forward from the men who stay stuck. One set waits to be chosen. The other chooses strategy and chooses himself. Section 12. The rules were rewritten. Quietly, the rules of the game didn't vanish. They weren't destroyed in some chaotic revolution. They were rewritten. Slowly, quietly, almost imperceptibly. So subtly that by the time you noticed, you were already playing the wrong game. While you were being taught to be polite, they were learning how to persuade. While you were mastering humility, they were mastering influence. While you were taught to wait your turn, they were already rewriting the order of the line. And here's the hard truth. The ones who rise today aren't always the most moral. They're not always the most talented. They're not always the hardest working. They're the ones who understand visibility. They're the ones who master perception. Because in the modern world, visibility is leverage, and leverage is power. And the irony? You thought staying humble made you stronger. You thought not promoting yourself was virtuous. You thought your effort would speak for itself. But in a world of noise, effort without amplification is silence. And silence is often mistaken for absence. So while you stayed quiet, they framed the narrative. They became the authority. They claimed the position you were more qualified for, simply because they knew how to be seen. This isn't a call to abandon integrity. This is a wake-up call to marry it with strategy. To realize that in the age of infinite distraction, clarity is rare, and the man who has it becomes magnetic. To understand that restraint alone won't carry you. You need framing. You need signal. You need to understand how power actually flows. Not how it should flow. Not how it used to flow. But how it flows now. Across screens, platforms, and micro moments of attention. Because here's the real betrayal. You were taught that playing fair would lead to fairness. But no one told you the rules changed. And they changed without your permission. Now, if you're not adapting, you're fading. If you're not owning your presence, someone else is writing your story. So don't let your silence become your sabotage. Learn the new game. Speak in the language the world now listens to. And do it with depth, presence, and calm power. That's the new edge. That's how you win, without losing yourself. Section 13. Why being chosen doesn't work anymore. You were told, just be the best version of yourself, and one day, someone will see it. Work hard, stay kind, and eventually, you'll be chosen. It sounded noble. It sounded romantic. It even sounded fair. But that advice was built for a world that no longer exists. Because today, nobody's choosing. They're scrolling. They're swiping. They're skimming across hundreds of signals, images, and micro moments, each one louder than the last. In a hyper-stimulated world, attention is currency, and that currency is constantly being spent, but never truly invested. We now live in a reality where Attention is fractured into 5-second increments. Connection is traded for convenience. And validation, it's become gamified. A dopamine slot machine built on false intimacy and shallow metrics. The result? Even the most grounded, disciplined, high-quality men can become invisible. Not because they're lacking value, but because they're not optimized for visibility. And here's the real kicker. The man who waits patiently to be noticed, he's playing a game that rewards interruption, not virtue. He's trying to win a race by walking in a different direction. And let's be clear, this isn't just about dating. It's about career. It's about influence. It's about life. We've shifted into an attention-first economy. And in this economy, value isn't enough. Positioning matters. Presentation matters. Perception matters. You're not just competing on substance. You're competing on signal clarity. And the man who understands this, the one who learns how to frame his value, to command attention without begging for it, to be seen without selling his soul, he's the one who rises. Not because he's louder, but because his clarity cuts through the noise. So no, being chosen doesn't work anymore. You can't sit back and wait for the world to see your worth. You have to stand up and broadcast it, with precision, poise, and presence. That's not vanity. That's strategy. And it's how you stop being the man who's almost respected, almost noticed, almost enough, and finally become the one who's undeniable. The game changed. The rules you were taught don't apply anymore. The ladder you were climbing was quietly pulled up. The people handing out the trophies, they don't even respect the values you were raised on. You're still playing by the old book, while everyone else is rewriting the rules in real time. The scoreboard is rigged. It doesn't track merit. It tracks attention. It rewards narrative, not depth. Visibility, not virtue. The referees? Biased. Paid off by systems you'll never see. Rewarding players who know how to play the crowd, not the game. And the fans? They're not even watching. They're scrolling, zoning out, obsessed with distraction, cheering for whoever sells them the best illusion that day. So what do? You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for validation. You stop thinking anyone is coming to give you what you've earned. You build your own system. You learn to play your own game. You take back control, first of your time, then your energy, then your narrative, and finally, your results. You stop chasing praise from people who don't know you. You stop proving your worth to systems that never respected you. You move differently. You think clearer. You create leverage. You play the long game. And in time, you start to win. But not by their metrics, not by their rules. You win because you wake up knowing you've built something real, something that can't be taken, something that doesn't need applause to have value. That's the new game. And the modern man who thrives? He doesn't just adapt. He designs his own arena.